It's week 2 of the CAL. I hope you're excited. Today we're crocheting the back panel. Welcome to week 2 of the ClothingCAL. Today we're going to crochet the back panel of the cardigan. Here I have an example of the back panel that I crocheted earlier. We begin by crocheting the bottom band, the rib border, and then we work our V-stitch into the side of the ribbing. We'll have a look at how to change colours. And at the end, at the top, I'll show you how to shape the shoulders. That's because it's important for you to create space for the neckline over here and the shoulders on either side. And I'll show you how to do that at the end of this episode. But as I said, we begin with the ribbing. To crochet the ribbing, we use the smaller of our 2 crochet hooks. In my case, that's the 5mm hook. As I explained last week, make sure your smaller hook is 1mm smaller than your larger hook. So if you crocheted your swatch with a different size hook, use a hook that's 1mm smaller than the one you used for the swatch. For me, that's 5mm. The whole cardigan is worked with 2 strands of yarn held together, and we do so right from the ribbing. Make a slip knot to begin. Insert your hook and tighten the loop. The ribbing consists of 8 single crochets worked in the back loops throughout. But of course, before we do that, we need to chain 9 for the foundation chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In the first row, you work in single crochet, so work your first single crochet in the second chain from the hook. And as I said last week, make sure you work under both loops of each stitch, as well as both strands of Yarn & Colours Glamour and Baby Fabulous. And pull both strands through onto your hook each time, and single crochet. Do the same in the next stitch, that's 2, and continue until you have a total of 8 single crochets. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's 8 single crochets. Chain 1 to turn, and then turn your work. We're now going to work our single crochets in the back loops only. If you look at the top of your stitches, you'll see that each stitch has a V-shaped top. Each V is made up of 2 loops, a back loop and a front loop. The back loop lies towards the back of your work, as seen from the side you're working on. And you're only going to insert your hook under this loop. So you insert your hook in the middle of the V, work it under the 2 strands of the back loops, out the back, catch the yarn and pull it through. Then finish off the single crochet as normal. Here you can see the front loop that you've left unworked at the front. Do the same in the next stitch, inserting again through the middle of the V, tilting your hook so it passes under both strands of the back loop. Pull the yarn up and finish the single crochet as usual. Continue like this until the end of the row, working in the back loops only, finishing the single crochets off as you would normally. So do this until you have a total of 8 single crochets worked in the back loops. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 single crochets in the back loops. And on the front of my work there's this raised line of loops. That's deliberate because if you look at the ribbing on the back panel, the ribbing effect is created by these raised ridges, and it's the same on the back. That means you don't do anything different in each row. You don't change what loop you work in. You simply work 1 turning chain, turn your work, and look here at the V-shaped loops above your stitches. You insert your hook through the middle, out under the strands of the back loop, pull your yarn up and finish it off as a normal single crochet. So throughout, work your single crochets in the back loops. Keep counting your stitches as you work to make sure that you don't lose or gain any stitches. If you keep counting throughout, here too, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches each time, you're sure to get a nice straight rectangular piece. If you lose stitches, your fabric will get narrower, and we don't want that. So keep counting now and then to make sure that you haven't lost any stitches. So work 1 turning chain at the end of each row, turn your work, and work another 8 single crochets in the back loops. And so here we are at the end of the row, chain 1, and then 8 more single crochets in the back loops. So once I finish this row, I'll show you what it looks like already. And here you can see the ribbing pattern already taking shape. And you can see that it's reversible with the ribbing appearing on both sides. If you keep going and crochet the number of rows given in the pattern for your size, you'll end up with a long piece of ribbing like this one. And it's into the side of this rib border that you're going to work your V-stitch for the main cardigan panel. I've fastened off here for this example, but you don't need to fasten off at all. Simply turn your work and continue with the same yarn. So I've now reached the end of my ribbing. As you can see, in my completed example, I've worked a single row of single crochet into the side of my ribbing. Work 1 single crochet per row of back loop single crochet in the ribbing. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. So take your rib border. Once you've made your final single crochet in the last back loop, chain 1 to turn, and then set the smaller crochet hook aside and work with the larger hook now. Pop it in the loop and turn your rib border a 1/4 turn. We're now going to work into the side of the ribbing here at the top. You've already chained 1 to get the height of the stitches, and we're now going to work into the side of each row of back loop single crochets. You can see a small hole here between the ridges, and that's where you'll place your stitches. And you simply work a single crochet there. And in the next row of back loop single crochets, here you might have to stretch your work out a little to find the gap. You insert your hook in that little hole there and work another single crochet. And in the next gap over there, a single crochet again. And continue like this until you have a whole row of single crochet across the whole edge of the ribbing. So whatever number of rows of back loop single crochet you worked for the ribbing, whether that's 55 or 59, that's the number of single crochet you should have along the side of the ribbing here. So keep track of the number of stitches as you crochet to make sure you don't skip a row or work 2 stitches into the same row by mistake. Keep counting and you should have the right number of stitches at the end. And now I'm ready to begin the V-stitch. So first I chain 2 to turn and turn my work. Then, just as we did last week for the swatch, I first work 1 double crochet in the first stitch. Then I skip 1 stitch and I work 2 double crochet in the next stitch. Then I skip 1 stitch again and work 2 double crochet in the next stitch. Skip 1 again and then 2 double crochet in the next stitch. And you continue this pattern until you have 2 stitches left at the end of the row. Just as you did for the swatch, you'll skip the second last stitch and work a single double crochet in the last stitch. I've now reached the last 2 stitches of my row. I skip the second last stitch and double crochet once in the last stitch. Then, as we did for the swatch, we chain 2 here to turn and turn our work. Then double crochet in the last double crochet of the previous row, and then work 2 double crochets in between each pair of double crochets from the previous row. Continue doing so until you have crocheted 4 rows in the darkest color. That's 4 rows of burgundy here. After 4 rows, it's time for a new color. As you can see, we gradually transition to the new color in a set pattern. So 1 row of the new color, 2 rows of the old, 2 rows of the new color, and 1 row of the old color, then fully in the new color. Changing color might sound a bit scary, but it's actually quite straightforward. To change color as neatly as possible, we start in the last stitch of the old color. So as you work the last double crochet in the last stitch of your row, don't finish it off completely. So you insert your hook, pull the yarn up, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops of the hook, and then drop the old color. Keep the strand of glamour though, because you'll be carrying on working with it with the new color. So take your new color, and that's this lovely bright pink, this raspberry. Lay it here alongside your work and hold it together with the glamour. And then pull this new color combination through the last 2 loops on your hook to finish the final double crochet. Then use the new color to work your 2 turning chains to get the height for the new row, as you can see here. Now, turn your work and work your first double crochet in the top of the last double crochet of the previous row, and then continue in V-stitch across as before. And there's your new color V-stitches in the middle of the previous color V's. So you always change color in the last stitch of the previous row, so you're ready to begin the new row in the new color. At the top of the back panel, once you've changed all the colors where necessary and finished the top part in the main color, it's time to shape the neckline and the shoulders. So you're going to create the opening you need here for the back of your neck so that the cardigan doesn't sit right against it. And it's actually really simple to do. So first finish the final row as normal. So 1 last V-stitch, one last double crochet in the last stitch, 2 turning chains, and turn your work. You start this row with 1 double crochet in the last stitch of the previous row as usual, and then the pattern tells you to crochet a number of V-stitches across for the shoulder. I'm making the extra small size, so I need to work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 V-stitches. So I work my 8 V-stitches as normal across these stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, let me just get some more yarn, 4, 6, 7, 8. And I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 normal V-stitches in total. Now in the next V-stitch space, I'm going to work 2 double crochets together to create the slight diagonal shape I need for my neckline. So I work the first double crochet until I have 2 loops left on my hook, so I don't finish it completely. Let me show you that again. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, and pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. Leave the other 2 loops on your hook for now. Then do the same again. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops again. And now I have 3 loops on my hook, and I yarn over and pull through all 3 to finish the 2 double crochets together. And then I chain 1. And because I'm finished with the shoulder on this side, I'm going to take my scissors and cut the yarn. I'm leaving a long tail of the Baby Fabulous yarn, which I'll use to sew the shoulders of the back and front panels together. So leave that one nice and long. And I just need enough of the glamour to be able to weave it in neatly, so that's it. Then pull these tails through the final chain that you made and pull it to tighten. That's the neckline complete on this one side. And as you can see, we've worked from right to left here, from the outside of your shoulder in towards the neckline. And we're going to work in the same right to left direction for the other side. So working from the neckline, left towards the outside of the shoulder. So count your stitches. So 1 double crochet, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 V-stitches. And in the 9th, that's where we'll join our yarn for the second shoulder. And first work 2 double crochets together and then the shoulder V-stitches. So working from the neckline to the shoulder edge for the second shoulder, from the inside out. Remember, for the first shoulder, we first did 8 V-stitches, then double crocheted 2 together. But here we begin with double crocheting 2 together, then work 8 V-stitches and 1 last double crochet. So 1 double crochet, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do note that for other sizes, this will be a different number of V-stitches, so read the pattern carefully. And join your yarn in the 9th V-stitch. We've joined our yarn, and as it says in the pattern, we chain 2 to get the height. And then 2 double crochets together here in this 9th V-stitch. And then crochet 8 V-stitches here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And finish with 1 last double crochet in the final stitch. And chain 1, then cut your glamour yarn just long enough to weave it in, and cut a longer tail of the Baby Fabulous to use to sew the shoulder seam. And then pull the ends through the final chain and pull to tighten it. And now you can see you've created this neckline on both sides here and shaped the shoulders. And there's a nice space here for your cardigan to sit against your neck. And that's the back panel complete this week. If you've worked quickly and need something extra to do while waiting for next week, I suggest you weave in all your loose ends down the sides of your work. As you can see here, if you leave the glamour hanging loose for too long, it begins to unravel, and the quicker you weave it in, the less this is going to happen. Weaving in all your ends now will make it much easier to sew the whole cardigan together later on. And once it's done, you're ready for next week when we'll begin working on the front panels. And that's it for this week. You now have a lovely back panel. Next week we move on to the front.